Hi, folks. Cliff from Talking Pondo here. I want to give you a quick warning about the upcoming episode. We do talk about the movie in quite a bit of detail, plot points, and so on, so there will be spoilers. And just fair warning, there is some adult language every now and then, so I just want to give you a heads up on that. Also, you can watch our latest film trilogy, Writing Frenzy, Revenge of Zoe, and The Love Song of William H. Shaw. Those are available on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Fossum, Hoopla, and Zumo. So get out there and give them a watch. I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks for listening. Yeah. There's so many tropes in this film, but you know what isn't a trope? A gypsy woman jerking off Frankenstein. Now that is not a trope,
No,
sir.
that's more original. Yeah,
That's
we took it
original
a
right
step
there.
further,
That's original.
much like a movie they couldn't make in the
Any
30s.
other horror movie.
It was like in Victor
Mhm.
Victoria, they couldn't make that movie back in the 30s. Well, they couldn't make this version of Frankenstein back in the 30s either. The early 80s, that's what you get there,
It's not a trope, but it sure is gross.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Season 3 of Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty give each other a film to watch and talk about them in detail. Some episodes will include a special guest.
All right, that's us. We're back.
Yeah,
What's up, man?
We are back. It's Season 3, Episode 3, number 75 altogether. It's crazy to think, but that is what is happening at this point. We're recording the 75th episode of the podcast. It's wild. It does seem like just yesterday we started.
Is that diamond? 25 is silver, 50 is gold, and 75 is diamond?
Could very well be, yeah. On the road to 100, which will happen this season.
It's going to be a diamond episode, folks.
Yeah. So
I guarantee it.
There's that, anyway. And here we are doing our regular shtick once again. Nothing too out of the ordinary this week. Our films are Step Brothers and the Funhouse, so it's not like we're, really reaching for the stars too much on this one, but we have fun with it at least,
Yeah, pretty standard episode for this type of thing. When you come to Talking Pondo, you're going to get this type of episode every now and then. I'm Cliff Campbell, by the way.
Oh, I'm Marty Catola.
That's Marty Catola. And, I wouldn't say that it's middle of the road type of fare, but, we've got, look, I mean, Step Brothers is, we'll have a conversation about that movie, but it's beloved by many people. And I think Funhouse definitely has a cult following. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. But to start things off, we're going to go back to another segment of the viewer mail.
Viewer mail, all right.
Viewer mail, which I always like to surprise Cliff with ahead of time. So his reactions are 100% genuine on the show. He's like, he had no idea there was viewer mail.
I love getting viewer mail. It's my favorite.
So this one goes back a little bit. This is for the Go and Poseidon Adventure episode we did, where I don't know if these people listen to the show or if they just see the post and they respond to it. I hope they're listening. But either way, David Gurman says, the Poseidon Adventure is an absolute classic. And then he puts in quotes, in the water, I'm a very skinny lady.
I love it.
So that's one response there.
I think that Marty and I would both agree that within the realm, especially of disaster type films, the one you want to watch is Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah.
Maybe Airplane or, Towering Inferno is garbage. I haven't seen Towering Inferno in forever, but if you want a good disaster movie, Poseidon Adventure is going to give you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And Hackman, who, has reluctantly, unfortunately passed very recently.
Yes.
He gives you a hell of a performance as the priest looking for not absolution, but redemption.
Right.
Yeah.
And our second viewer mail this week.
We have two viewer mails?
Well, that other one is backed up for a while, but this one's really fresh here. Yeah, so it's crazy, right? This is in response to the 10 and Whiplash episode.
Uh-huh.
And this is from... I think he's actually listening to the show. This is from Mike Codis, You might remember him as the
I do.
original Nick Levine in our Comic Book Diaries movie, and he also portrayed the
Indeed.
smoker in Marijuana.
What's
Hey,
up,
if you're
Mike?
out
How you
there,
doing?
thanks for listening. So he
Yep.
writes in and says, good job. I thought Whiplash was pretty insane and probably not recommended for people who have been abused. I was
Truth.
I was conflicted with JK's character, but ended up coming down on the side of asshole. LOL. It's funny, but just yesterday I was thinking about how fucked up he was in Oz, which I haven't
Oh,
seen. He says, you've seen that, right? Holy shit. And also,
yeah.
he writes, just thinking about the comparison with Tar and Kate Blanchett, incredible acting of really fucked up characters. So,
Tar's a great. Have you seen Tar?
no, I have not seen that one yet.
Okay, well,
Thinking
Tar's a
that's
good.
probably going to come up here at some
I
point.
think that'll probably come up this season at some point because he makes a good point. It's a great sort of mirror to, because it's about people who are demanding the best and striving for the best. And as much as you want to crap on J.K. Simmons' character for who he is and the way he goes about it, that is what he's after, right? There's no doubt about the fact that what he's after is the very best of the best of the
Mm-hmm.
best. That's why he puts so much pressure. And some you'll hear people say, "Oh, pressure makes diamonds." I think it also allows people to be assholes. You
Also
know,
makes 75 episodes.
also makes 75 episodes.
And surprised we're not doing Ferris Bueller, because then after 2 weeks you get a diamond. Something like that is the quote there. So what do we normally do at this point? I guess, well, we can babble about film a little bit.
Yeah, let's
Is that
just babble
what
about
you're,
film for a little bit.
or
Film's
was that
great,
the
isn't it? It's the best thing ever.
in the going before we go in to the beginning of
Hmm.
the movies?
I did have a thought, um, and it is that, especially with the view of Funhouse, that there are directors out there that filmmakers in particular who are not filmmakers in particular, directors and filmmakers who really just have that one great movie in them. They do other movies in kind of a workmanlike fashion or in an interesting fashion, but they never really reach that level of greatness again. You know what I mean? For whatever factor or for whatever reason, it never really seems to hit on the same level for them ever again. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
A lot of the time, you're just simply not allowed. Nobody's
Yeah.
budgeting your different type of genre film or whatever, or giving you the
Yeah.
money to equal the thing you did before. Yeah.
Well, and then sometimes you blow it so bad you can't.
Well, that
Like
happens
you
too.
make,
Movie jail. Yeah.
Michael Cimino, goes to movie jail after The Deer Hunter because he makes Heaven's Gate and that type of thing, and Friedkin at some point. But I don't know. But those guys, I think, even some of their bad pictures measured up to a certain level. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just seems like there's every now and then you get a director who makes that one kind of good or good bordering on great picture and then never really is able to put it together again to make that level of
Mm-hmm.
film ever again. But still can get work on the
Yeah.
basis or on the back of that that achievement.
So I'd say let's start with The Funhouse, a movie that has a director who managed to make at least two classics I can think of. Texas
Mm-hmm.
Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist. The movies just keep going and going and going. But one of the main reasons, as I mentioned last week, because I had to watch Always again, I was like, okay, well, let's go ahead and watch The Funhouse and see if these movies that are completely different from each other make us realize once and for final who directed Poltergeist. And I think it might be actually was Toby Hooper, because this movie feels in a way like things that he would kind of perfect the next year in a partnership with Spielberg. It's definitely a lot of thematic stuff. But anyways, what is The Funhouse from 1981? Here we go back to 1981 once again, and it came out this weekend actually in 81 when we were recording it. It was a March 13th release.
Wow, 1981. All right, here we go. The Funhouse, 1981, rated R, 1 hour, 36 minutes. Teenage Amy Harper, her boyfriend Buzz Dawson, and their friends Richie Atterbury and Liz Duncan visit a local carnival for a night of innocent amusement, but soon witness a fortune teller's murder and find that the exits are blocked. Directed by Toby Hooper, written by Lawrence J. Block. Starring Elizabeth Barrett, Sean Carson, Gene Austen. Let's see here. Storyline. Teenage Amy Harper dates Buzz Dawson for the first time, and they go to the carnival with their friends, Richie and Liz. They smoke grass and have a good time visiting the attractions, including a sideshow with freak animals. The silly Richie suggests the group spend the night in the Funhouse for fun. During the night, they witness the murder of fortune teller Madame Zena by a man wearing a Frankenstein mask from an opening in the ceiling of a room. They decide to leave the Funhouse, but all the exits are locked. Meanwhile, Richie sneaks into the room and steals the Funhouse manager's money. The masked man returns with his father and owner of the Funhouse to show the corpse of Madame Zena. When the man realizes he has been robbed, he presses his son, who removes his mask and shows his horrible face. Richie starts and drops his lighter into the room. The owner asks his freak son to chase the thieves and eyewitnesses into a night of terror for the teenagers. And that's...
You got a lot of detail in there.
That's dead on. Yeah, that's pretty dead on.
And then let's, for the trivia section here, there was a novelization by Dean Koontz.
Really?
Yeah, he did it under a pseudonym. That's kind of crazy. I guess it fills in more details as a novelization would. This was a mall rental movie for me. When we used to rent movies from the mall, I talked about this episodes back when we had a VCR in like 1982. And so we probably rented this when it was brand new, just because it said it was from the people who made Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, of course,
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of the times I watch it, it's just like when I would watch it back then or on Channel 11 in the afternoons on Saturday or USA Network or something. I pay attention a lot to the first half hour of it. And then once they spend the night in there, I kind of drift off. And the next thing I know, I look up and dude's stuck in the gears. It's kind of one of those where you just nicely drift off and, you don't have to pay too much attention because it's kind of like that classic, we ran out of story, so let's start killing people time period of it. But so some of my other trivia here was the director of photography of this movie was Andrew Laszlo, and he shot The Warriors. So it kind of makes sense, right? Because all the nice lens flares and that kind of eerie night look.
Yeah, one of my notes, let me grab my notes here.
He also shot the following films: Star Trek V, Inner Space, Poltergeist 2, Remo Williams, Streets of Fire, First Blood, Southern Comfort, and the Shogun miniseries. Now, the guy who was the director of photography of Poltergeist, well, he shot Fast Times and Breaking Away and a bunch of other 80s classics. So between these two DPs, they were kind of the look of the 80s for a lot of this stuff. It's kind of a weird rabbit hole I fell down.
Interesting. One of the things that I noted about this film is that they do their close-ups. They do the thing that they do in the NFL when the guy scores a touchdown. Like in the NFL, when they score a touchdown, they cut to the guy who's doing this touchdown dance, and he's very in focus, and everything behind him, like everything within 2 feet, is all a blur. Right. So he seems to be sort of, I don't know, dancing out of reality or something. It's just this weird effect. And they do that with a lot of the close-ups in Funhouse, especially early on, where it's like, and the wide angle shots are very kind of, I don't know, I guess maybe the kids nowadays call it bokeh, but it's like there's a point in the middle where everything's in focus, and then everything as you go out is less and less in focus. And like, to me, that's kind of just a shitty lens. I don't know. Some people like that. They think that looks good. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. Like, especially when you watch, it's the same dude who made Texas Chainsaw, and I have trouble when I watch this movie kind of putting. They're not. No, it is. I'm sorry. That's it is Toby, right?
Yeah. He made, this is like three or so movies after he did like Sail a lot before this, and
second guessing myself there, but it
I mean,
just it doesn't have
thematically,
the same.
there's some things in there, but
Yeah,
the look
but the
is
but
grown.
the menace and the look is completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. And
Well,
man, he used the fuck out of that crane that they rented. Man, he was happy. So many big crane shots over that carnival.
mm-hmm. All the themes of family once again and stuff. That's just bleed over into Poltergeist the next year, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Breasts in the first 5 minutes of this movie. That's 81 horror at its finest.
There's a lot of touches to other Universal movies. That's a Psycho motif. They got the Frankenstein, Universal Monsters. The parents are watching Bride of Frankenstein on TV while the kid drops his Frankenstein toy. That makes any sense. But it's still funny though.
The main killer wears a Frankenstein mask and Frankenstein hands. Yeah. In the first 5 minutes, again, we get the nudity, and then I'm looking at this girl going, who does she look like? What does she remind me of? And then I'm like, immediately like, oh, that's Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's wife in Amadeus. And like, I couldn't get that out of my head for the first 20 minutes of the movie. I'm just like, I'd never seen her in anything else. Like I haven't seen I haven't seen this movie before. So.
Oh, really? So I wasn't sure. I was like, he'd either seen this one as a child or he hadn't seen it at all. I was thinking.
No, I hadn't seen it.
She was on a show called the John Larroquette Show in the 90s, a sitcom, which is also where I remember her from. But it's weird because John Larroquette was the narrator in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I wonder if they ever shared Tobe Hooper stories.
No, my bad. I do have a note that says I have seen this. As soon as we see it's Joey, I totally remember this movie. Okay, so that okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, my bad.
But it probably been ages, I'm guessing. Like,
yeah, she's dressed like a Mexican peasant with that weird blue shirt thing. Yep. I don't know.
That's 1981 fashion for you.
What the heck is this?
It's not quite 70s, but.
Yeah.
Oh, and that other guy, the one who steals the money, he was in Get Crazy.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
He was the guy who ended up dropping acid and going off with the hippies, but he was like an asshole before that. Then he kicked the dog or something.
Is this one of the early R-rated movies with the annoying little brother, like in the type of horror movie genre?
I think so, because now we're in the 80s, so yeah.
Yeah, this kid's like super annoying.
Oh, he's a shithead. Yeah, right.
I kept hoping that he was going to die. Like, I kept hoping they were going to kill him. And this, like, I hoped it was going to be like an Assault on Precinct 13 moment.
Yeah.
Where I was like, yes, this is the genre for it. We'll do it in this genre. We'll do it in this time period in filmmaking. We won't do it now. No, but we'll blow that kid away and Assault on Precinct 13.
It's a difference between the 70s nihilism and the 80s kind of what is now the Stranger Things, Goonies motif that they keep ripping off. This is one of the births of it. That's why I kind of like that Blob remake from 88, I think it is, because they kill the kids in that one too. The Blob doesn't care, just runs over whoever,
This is one of those movies that it's like, oh, isn't the carnival and the fair scary? Aren't carnies creepy? Hey, come over here and see the weird genetic defects on all the farm animals. It's that sort of like, it reminds me, I just kept expecting Gary Busey and Carney to pop up at some point.
I think they're hearkening back to like the carnies of the 60s and the 70s. By the time we went, it was still a little creepy, and I remember some of that, but it had kind of been cleaned up a bit, and it changed.
Yeah.
But this feels more like the incredibly strange creatures who stopped living and became mixed up zombies.
Well, it feels like Freaks to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was that was the commonplace, and like, oh, here's the strip show, and we're all these barkers, and I feel like because they grew up probably in the more rural, back in those older time, that maybe they were reflecting to a.
It's been done. It's the carny horror.
Well, in 81,
it
hadn't
it's
been
a tired trope. Even in 81, I feel like it's a tired trope.
No, that's true. This did come from the
success
of Halloween.
It's an easy go-to.
Yeah.
smoking a doob behind the tent and the circus tent, man.
Oh yeah, this is like a real Dazed and Confused in a way.
There's
It's
just
like in
nothing
real
original
time
in this
though.
movie at
But I
all.
mean, the look and the vibe, it's like you almost expect Wooderson to show up, right?
Yeah, it's just like, hey, now that we're all high, let's get our fortunes read. It's just like trope,
Which would be repeated in Mallrats, right?
trope. They should call this movie Trope House, not Funhouse. Is what they should call this movie.
Speaking of marijuana, the actress who played Liz was in I think it's like an after-school special thing called Stoned with Scott Baio. Riff Tracks does a good version of that, and I was like, "Hey, she's in the Funhouse." I don't know anything else offhand that she was in.
Is this like a payback for Shanghai Noon or Tootsie?
No, this was because of Always.
Oh, really?
And I mean, I was going to bring this up anyways, just because I think it's an interesting comparison to Poltergeist. If there's any kind of stylistic choices, or like now he's dealing with the family in peril. And people always say that Spielberg directed Poltergeist. And I'm like, no, he was the producer on it. I'm sure he had a lot to do with even the directorial feel, but Tobe Hooper.
He's not credited as the director.
Exactly,
but
there's always
credited as the director.
There's that urban myth of it, right? And then I think when you watch movies like The Funhouse and movies like Always, you really see whose style is what, and you can kind of see the blending of it in Poltergeist.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, they're the family in Funhouse. One of my notes is like, when they finally get this little shit back from his little romp, they don't seem to really. The mom's just like, "Come on, let's go. I want to go home." Like she doesn't really seem super worried about his well-being, I guess, or whatever. I don't know how else to put it. Even the dad seems kind of nonplussed that his kid snuck into a carnival and had been running around all night, and was found by this guy who's basically drinking out of a bottle. While the kid's laying there, he's like caressing the kid's face, and
it's one of the more
acting all friggin' weird, dude. It's like, what the fuck is going on with this film?
It's just a weird drive-in movie from ages ago, but
it's not scary though.
No,
like it reminded me of Hell Night, where it's not fucking scary. It's just this premise so that you can have a bunch of like bad monsters in bad masks.
Hey, Rick
run
Baker,
around, and go, that mask is fucking terrible.
It is funny, but still, for 1981, and the print wasn't as sharp as what we could see now.
It looks like what you would see like from a movie about like radiation defects or something. Like some sort of like the Philadelphia experiment or something.
Next week, the Philadelphia experiment.
So one of the weird things I found in this movie is that, okay, so the guy who plays the dad of the monster, right?
Yeah.
That actor, plays like 3 different parts in this fucking movie, or 4.
Oh, really?
I think I lost track because he's okay. So this isn't just me then. I thought that this was maybe a choice by the director, but so at 31 minutes and 34 seconds, he's announcing the haunted house ride with that sort of, hey, come on, house ride. And they immediately cut to him dressed as somebody else announcing the freak tent.
Oh, I thought it was just somebody who looked like him. I didn't think it was.
And then they weird cut to another dude that looks like him. He's playing a different role. And I'm just like, did they just think that his face was so generic they could just dress him up and put him in a bunch of different roles? But like, if you go back and watch this for me and tell me, because I could swear it's the same actor every time. What's his name?
Are they trying to make it look like he's working different booths at different times, or
that it's a, I don't know, cursed type of? Is it Jack McDermott? Is that who it is?
Oh, I'd have to IMDb it.
He plays what's the dad's name in that movie? No, that's Mrs. Harper, Mr. Harper. Crap. That's going to drive me crazy now.
That was their intention.
Right.
To drive you crazy.
Well, only because it's like, why the fuck would you do that? Somebody explain yourself. Herb Robbins, maybe?
I'm pulling this up here. Let's see. Figure this out.
Folks, we're going to figure this out. Jeez, that's annoying.
He's Kevin Conway. Right.
He's the monster's dad or whatever that is.
Right. Well, this movie does have vortex plots in it. So.
It is, yeah. So it's Freak Show Barker, Strip Show Barker, Funhouse Barker, all Kevin Conway.
So he's just going around.
So he plays 3 different roles in this movie. I don't know why.
Oh,
it doesn't make any sense to me why he plays. And literally in the movie, at 31 minutes and 30 seconds, we cut from him at one place to just boom, him at another place as a totally different character. It's fucking weird, man. But like I said, what's weird is that at 31 minutes and 30 seconds, he's announcing the haunted house. And then they cut to him as a different character announcing the strip tent. And it's like, I mean, if you're trying to spread him out and kind of shimp him, you're doing a pretty bad job cutting between the 2 scenes that he's like put in the middle so that we forget him for a minute before we jump into a new scene. It was really weird. Or is he like, or is it like this kind of possessed funhouse where Kevin Conway is, multiple people type of thing? You know what I mean? The funhouse, the carnival from hell or something. I don't know. But it's never clear, and it's never explained why he's 3 different people.
That is pretty funny.
That kid with when they go to poke the hole in the back of the tent so they can watch the girly show, that kid's got a switchblade. Like a full-on switchblade. I'm like, okay, yeah, because privileged little kids from the suburbs carry switchblades. What in the hell?
In 1981. Or excuse me, 1980. I do think it's funny that the DP of this movie didn't do Poltergeist, but he made Poltergeist 2. That's just kind of odd. So there was a music video for Dancing with Myself by Billy Idol. You remember that video?
Sure.
It's directed by Tobe Hooper, and it features some of the animatronics that were in the Funhouse. Apparently, those were Toby's possessions for a while, and where they are now, who knows? But it is funny that they are in that music video.
It takes 35 minutes to get to the actual premise of this movie.
Yeah, it meanders a bit.
Which is let's stay in the funhouse. Let's stay in the haunted house. This carnival ride haunted house thing.
It was a great idea on their part.
That shot where they all get onto the cars and they go into the haunted house, and then the cars come out and they're empty. Right? Like I assume that means that they have jumped out of the cars and there's hiding in the funhouse, right? But we cut to a shot outside the funhouse as the carnival's closing down, and it's kind of far away because it's a crane shot, and it looks like the 2 couples standing outside of the funhouse. So it's really confusing as far as like, is that the same couple? Is that 2 different couples? Where the fuck are the couples? I thought they were in the funhouse. And so there's several like weird things going on in this movie that kind of confuse me. Again, the dude playing 3 different parts. Are they in the funhouse? Are they aren't? What's up with this weird fucking kid? And what is his problem running around the carnival constantly? Like, what is wrong? Does somebody need to take a belt to this kid? What is going on?
Yeah, he jumps over the fence, but then he's suddenly back in there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the weird ones I noticed. So,
he gets scared by that old lady and he runs, and then suddenly he's like, I'm going back. And it's like, why? Why?
And I know there's deleted scenes. I don't have the Blu-rays, so I don't have them, but I wonder what was chopped that maybe makes more sense, or what. Because there is some editing issues, definitely. Yeah.
There's so many tropes in this film, but you know what isn't a trope? A gypsy woman jerking off Frankenstein. Now that is not a trope, sir.
Well, that's more original.
That's original.
We took it a step further.
That's original.
Much like a movie they couldn't make in the 30s. It was like in Victor Victoria, you know, they couldn't make that movie back in the 30s. Well, they couldn't make this version of Frankenstein back in the 30s either. The early 80s, that's what you get there, you know.
It's not a trope, but it sure is gross. However, sexually frustrated weirdo killing a hooker, that is right back to the classic trope.
And then he revisits those themes in Texas Chainsaw 2 with
right.
Leatherface and his sexual fetishism, the radio DJ.
It's I don't feel bad for that kid. This movie's kind of boring. It's even at an hour 35, the movie's too long for me. Like I wanted it to be over a lot quicker. Look, you know, he does a few things. You know, he puts the movie together well. It moves. It's not like it's terribly made. It's just not terribly engaging or really grabbing me and dragging me along. Again, like Hell Night, where I'm just like, all right, here's your premise. Let's drive it into the ground. And it's kind of predictable. You know what I mean?
I think it's a little better than Hell Night. That one's a little.
I would agree with that. Yeah. No, I would rather watch this over Hell Night for sure. And there's a point in, like, you remember when the guy with glasses dies, and I'll say that's a pretty funny death. Scene. That's a pretty good scene. I like that death with the noose and everything, and they dragging him up, and but later as they're all moving away, Buzz's character, the actor playing Buzz, is like, "Hey, get over here! Hey!" And he's like kind of quiet yelling, and she's like 4 feet away from him. It's like, what are you yelling at? What the anyway? It reminds me of Hell Night, like I said, just a premise run into the ground. That axe looks so fake that they give him, but then of course he splits that dude's head, and you can see that coming a mile away. Like, of course that's not the killer. Of course that's your friend that just died. And again, what kind of parents are these that are so blasé about their kid? Like,
they're latchkey kids.
It reminds me of the two kids. It reminds me of the two parents in fucking the Sinister Urge. Manos, the Hands of
Violent
Fate.
Years.
Yeah, no, Manos, the Hands of Fate, or I Accuse My Parents or something.
The Violent Years.
Violent Years. We do get a diopter shot.
It does kind of have like an early 80s updated version of one of those type of movies in a way. Yeah, it's probably very riffable.
Well, it's just it's one of those movies where none of the premises make any sense. You know, none of the parents don't make any sense. The kid doesn't make any sense. The girl
right from the
doesn't
beginning,
make any sense.
The shower thing doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, right from the beginning, you get the shower. Then she's like, "I'm going to date this guy I've never dated before. Here's my top, taking my top off." You know, it's laying 4 feet from her best friend who's also making out with some other dude. It's just a weird movie.
Oh, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, just weird. I'm not a fan of the whole I just didn't think the mask was very good. I just didn't like it. And also this weird. So eventually we get down to this basement, and this basement's like all these moving parts and gears and shit. And I'm like, you're just gonna pick this up and move this to a new place tomorrow? Is like, what? No, this is like this has been here for a while. You can't just pick this up and move it. You can see that monster's death coming from a mile away. Once you see those gears, it's like, oh, here we go. You know,
here we go.
A lot of final girl nonsense, and here we go. There's the big fight. Yep, oh, there it is, right into the gears. And my only thing was, I thought it would be hilarious if the ending was, my alternate ending to this is, she gets out of the haunted house. She doesn't say anything to anybody. She leaves. She goes home. She takes a shower. She goes to bed. She wakes up in the morning and she acts like nothing happened. and they find her 3 dead friends, and she's just like, oh my God, that's terrible. And she just goes to school, and everybody feels bad for her because her friends are all dead. And she just continues to live her life like nothing happened.
Well, it even the ending, it makes no sense from beginning to end in that respect, because it's like, aren't you going to be wanted to answer some questions about what happened tonight? No, because the logic of everything else doesn't matter either. So we're just in this one to see a bunch of dumb kids make bad decisions and then be greedy in one case, which causes everything to go to hell.
Yeah.
And then they get offed really quickly.
Yeah.
And the movie's over. But it does have that vortex spot, like I was saying earlier. I remember they decided to stay in the Funhouse. Right. I kind of enjoy all that setup, even though it's nonsense. I kind of like the feel of it. And then I look up, and the next thing I know, dude's in the gears. And I think, did I miss something? No, I don't think I did. But
it's
I
like
still kind of get a kick out of it.
It's like watching somebody try to recreate what your grandpa went to at the carnival when he went by himself and he left grandma and the kids at home. You know, you got the weird animals, the weird sideshow tent, the strip tent, all that weird stuff. You know, all the things that adults went to see, right, while the kids ate popcorn and rode stupid rides, I guess. I don't know.
Well, no, you're absolutely right.
You said, the fair and carnivals we went to when we didn't really have much of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're here in 1981 again, and and we know what era 1981 is in. It's that era where I say they were still making movies for our grandparents. So some of those older sensibilities are in there. So maybe if you were 50 in 1981, you would have been really into this movie. I don't know. Since I saw it when I was a kid, that's the weird nostalgia factor. Just like, I remember this weird fucking thing, but I know it's got so many flaws, but I like a lot of the weirdness in it a lot better than a lot of the other 80s slashers that were to come after. At least they were trying something here.
Well, and putting a young kid in it is smart. At least it gives kids that age, much like you were when you were watching it, someone to identify with and take the journey of the film through. Although why a kid like you that age should be watching a film where young ladies getting naked is kind of maybe questionable.
I don't even remember
that was
that
the 80s anyways. Yeah. There was
I just remember dude in the gears as a kid. Yeah.
You had nudity in PG movies. What was I thinking?
Yeah. The rating system really weird back then, but what a strange oddity that was, and now it's out of the way.
2 stars.
2 stars. Yeah, I give it 2.5 because my nostalgia. But
2 stars. I won't watch it again, but I'd rather watch it than Hell Night. And Hell Night, I think I gave 1 or 1.5. So I think
you can put that on the box. And now we have another movie about parents that aren't paying attention, right?
Shit.
So I guess these are thematically linked. These 2 kids are a bit of, they're kind of like, what is his name? Gunter, the fucking crazy guy from the Funhouse. These 2 are like a suburban version of that. Instead of a Frankenstein mask, they wear Chewbacca masks. So
yeah, it's a failure. The premise is sort of that failure to launch that kid who never leaves home. That kid in his 30s who lives in mom's basement, or I guess in this instance the parents are much more tolerant, and so the kids basically live at home, live in their own room. Like the opening scene is Will Ferrell using a half a pack of cheese to make nachos while he sits in his underwear while his mom goes to work. And
so what is Step Brothers?
Yeah, what is Step Brothers?
What is this thing?
Sorry, jumped ahead there.
This movie that's already 17 years old. Crazy.
Jesus. What is that's Step Brothers, 2008, rated R, 1 hour, 38 minutes. 2 aimless middle-aged losers still living at home are forced against their will to become roommates when their parents marry. It's directed by Adam McKay, it's written by Will Ferrell, Adam McKay, John C. Reilly, and it stars Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly, Mary Steenburgen, and Richard Jenkins plays the dad.
He was in Manhattan Project.
Indeed. Storyline. Brennan Huff and Dale Doback are both about 40 when Brennan's mom and Dale's dad marry. The sons still live with their parents, so they must now share a room. initial antipathy. Ugh. Let me try that again. 1, 2, 3. Initial antipathy threatens the household's peace and their parents' relationship. Dad lays down the law. Both slackers have a month to find a job. Out of the job search and their love of music comes a pact that leads to friendship, but more domestic array, compounded by the boys sleepwalking. Hovering nearby are Brennan's successful brother and his lonely wife. The brother wants to help sell his stepfather's house, the wife wants Dale's attention, and the newlyweds want to retire and sail the seven seas. Can harmony come from the discord?
I like the sound of what you just said. I wish that would have been the movie I watched. This was another one of those, like the last gasp of raunchy late 90s humor into the mid-aughts before they quickly turned to complete gross-out humor. And I'm kind of like, I'm out. Kind of like the Get Him to the Greek. You know, I feel like this is in kind of league with that in a way.
It's a notch down from that as far as I think like the level of intensity they're trying to go for. Because again, you don't have anybody like reaching up anybody's ass for drugs or anything like that.
Yeah. And, you know, I like the premise of this one. I really do. I think there was something there.
There was something there.
I just feel like it wasn't baked all the way yet. Like, put that back in the oven for another hour or so. That's still a little raw there. You know, I feel like my biggest criticism right off the bat is it feels like everybody's trying to do Will Ferrell, including Will Ferrell, and it feels like it diminishes what he's trying to do because everybody feels like they're the same character in a way. Does that make sense? Because they're all doing the same brand of humor, I guess, where it was just like, so they don't stand apart from each other enough for me.
Okay.
The brother's different. He stands out. Yeah.
It's so when I first saw this movie, I worked this movie at the movie theater that I ran. And I think it's Thanksgiving. Is it like a holidays movie or maybe a summer movie?
I don't know the release date. Yeah.
When it was released. Let me check and see if I can figure that out here.
I think my one piece.
July 27th. Sorry. So yeah, so it's a summer movie. But I remember going in the theater and seeing like a lot of people coming out laughing and think it was funny. And I even as bad as this movie is, you need what little context the movie gives you to be able to kind of understand why it might be funny. But so if you walk into the middle of the movie, you're just like, what the fuck are these two idiots? Why are they acting like children? This is ridiculous. But yet when you watch the movie from start to finish, you go, oh, okay, it makes more sense. So in the beginning, I really didn't like this movie much. I thought it was really dumb, like Sherlock Holmes and Watson level of dumb, which these two, I don't know if you've seen that version that they did.
That's a later one that apparently nobody liked. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. This to me is probably one of their best ventures between the two of them. Talladega Nights, people would argue, is right up there with it. But as far as, you know, before they got to diminishing returns on a lot of their other ventures they did together, this one, again, I watched it later, a couple years later, and was like, oh, this is much funnier than I first thought it was. And it's also one of those movies that, like, the more beers you have, the funnier it is. Kind of like The Hangover or one of those other, you know, Hot Tub Time Machine. The more you have something to to help you laugh, the funnier the movie's going to be.
Yeah, it seemed like off the success of Anchorman, they were allowed a couple of semi-blank check movies where it's like, okay, slam out about 3 or 4 movies real quick. It doesn't matter what the quality is because we're going to make bank on them because we're popular right now. That old trick. And now Adam McKay and Will Ferrell don't even talk to each other anymore, right?
Yeah. Well, McKay, so he and McKay make
Anchorman.
Like you said, they make Anchorman, then they make Talladega Nights, which is another big hit. Then they make Step Brothers, which is another big hit. Then they make the other guys, and it kind of flops. They make Anchorman 2.
That was all right, yeah.
It was all right, but it wasn't.
I remember that one being okay.
You know, it wasn't. I would probably rather watch this than the other guys, honestly. But it's like this. Will Ferrell's humor to me has been kind of one of these things. It's like Mike Myers. It starts to kind of become diminishing returns. You get to the love guru and you go, ugh. All right, maybe have a seat for a while. I think you're done here.
and I've seen a lot of these same jokes probably ripped off and It's Always Sunny, but they do it in a much funnier way to me. Like, I feel like maybe if it wasn't Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, maybe the movie would have been funnier. But that's me. It's always subjective, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, of course he's a musician. He was a Dewey Cox, you know. Yeah. At one point, they even said guilty as charged, and I went, "Don't you go writing a song about that, Dewey Cox." But it's that level of kind of, you know, if you're in the mood for that kind of particular
Dumb and Dumber that sort of humor, this is going to hit really well for you. I think that's a big part of it. You have to.
If you're not, you almost want to go into a fetal position.
Yeah, very much so. It's yes. Yeah, you either lean into this and you enjoy this kind of humor, or you don't, and it's very painful.
Yeah, there's not much worse in cinema than a comedy that you are not finding funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yet there's some moments in this. It's, you know, we've seen movies that I've liked less, but I think I like giving the Greek a little more. Yeah.
The drum set bit is pretty good. Like when he says, like, you know, don't touch my drum set, you know he's going to. And then when he pulls the classic, like, oh, you're going to accuse me of touching your drum set when I didn't, and he pulls his balls out and puts them on the drum set.
Why do we have to go to the gross out? You could have had a movie that might have appealed even wider, but instead it felt like it just went for the shortcut of the gross out. And I go, well, it's not for me.
I don't necessarily think that's
humor. It's like at some point, it's like, well, we got to have a gross out scene in every comedy, and it's like, no, you really don't.
I don't see that as gross. I think like puking and that type of thing is gross.
Well, like they went on to have that. He wipes his butt with the fucking mat and on the floor. You know, there's all sorts of gross stuff in this. Yeah,
it's definitely not hygienic.
It's still kind of funny, but it's just like, oh, dude.
When I think of that, and I think of like, you know, what's the movie with Ryan Reynolds, the National Lampoon one, the fucking
the Van Wilder.
Yeah, where they jerk the dog off and make him with the donuts and all that shit. That type of gross humor to me makes me like where you want to personally vomit because it's so disgusting.
Yeah. And this movie had for somebody puking in it too. I'm like, that's just what this movie needed. It was a puking scene on top of everything else. So. But it's not as gross as that, though. It's not as gross as that Van Wilder sequence you're talking about. But for some reason, we still gotta have that stuff.
The beating up kids on the playground, getting beaten up by kids on the playground, that's classic.
Yeah, much funnier when Sonny did it.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so, even though they're probably ripping off Step Brothers. I think it happened first.
Kids being vulgar is always hilarious. It's kind of like Blazing Saddles, Hangover, Animal House, kind of trying to do some of that at points, but it's also very much an Adam McKay and Will Ferrell kind of John C. Reilly vehicle, you know, the whole thing where they're going to all the different interviews, you know, and all the you know, the comedy montages of the different interviews. Yeah.
The driving scenes were better than Axel F.
I thought they were projection,
the driving on the street. Why can't we have those still? You know, that I'm like, that's much better. Much better.
I thought they were fucking terrible. I figured you would complain about those. That's crazy.
No, I know they're bad in a different way, but I guess the Axel F ones were just unforgivable to me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this movie should have ended with the spanking.
When he spanks Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I would have been like, that would have perfect. You can just roll the credits right there. We would
cut to the Christmas and roll credits.
Yeah. Oh my God. Merry Christmas, sir. Not once, but twice. And the kids don't get any older. And we celebrate Christmas twice in this movie.
Do we
really? This has weird continuity like the Funhouse. Yeah. That's because it's Christmas again at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah.
So it's a double Christmas. So I really think that qualifies as a Christmas movie. It has two Christmases in it, like When Harry Met Sally. So.
Okay.
It's really becoming a thing around here. We're either in France or it's Christmas. I just have to laugh every time it happens. This is another Mo Henry film.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I found Catherine Hahn's weird sexual aggression an interesting comedy choice.
Yeah.
Where she like literally looks at him and goes, "We just have had sex," and walks off. Where it's just like, why are you telling him that? Like,
yeah, I can't figure out what the tone is supposed to be. One moment it's sincere, one minute it's gross. It's just like it's all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then other times you have these chaos scenes. You have the classic make it as chaotic as possible because that's funny. Where, and to me, the two worst scenes in the movie are these, hey, let's just have John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell act like they're sleepwalking and they'll walk around and just make and it's just like, oh my God, dude. This is fucking, I mean, like for some reason, it's like you said, Dumb and Dumber. Sometimes the dumb really works.
Mm-hmm.
And when it works, it's hilarious. And when it doesn't, it's really painful to sit through.
And I think it's because we don't know everybody enough. Like the script itself, if they had developed the characters more and more of a difference between the brothers and just then you care more, then it becomes funnier because you know everybody more. But since I don't know their quirks as much, I don't laugh at the sleepwalking as much, where I might go, oh, that's because he's doing the thing that he did with the other. That's why I feel like you need to put it back in the oven.
I also don't want to watch 20 minutes of setup, like preview with these two assholes before we actually get to the movie. Like, I don't know.
I'm saying if they did it well, though, you wouldn't mind it if it was good, is what I'm saying.
The falling asleep on the lawn bit where they're fighting and they fall asleep on the lawn is probably again, the height of sort of stupidity. I do think that him burying him alive is fucking hilarious, where he just go to sleep and he's just burying him alive. Go to sleep. That's fucking hysterical. What do you do, Brennan? Go to sleep. For some reason, during the third act, they keep saying the Catalina wine mixer. Everybody keeps talking about the Catalina wine mixer.
If we say it enough, it'll become
saying it over and over again. I don't know why, but it's like, I wonder if they had a bet. Like, how many times do you think we can fit the Catalina wine mixer into this movie? Hey, look, 46 times. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. You take a drink every time somebody says it. That's a nice Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone 3D poster that you can see on the wall at one point.
Nice. I missed that.
The heavy metal poster is a lot more prominent throughout.
What else do I have on this? Oh, he sings at the end and he cracks glass. So that must be an E flat, as we've learned in Victor Victoria.
Exactly.
When you crack glass while you're singing, it's an E flat.
Mm-hmm.
And boats and hoes, man.
Yeah, it's just all like, it was like, if is this what It's Always Sunny is like to people who don't like it? Because they do that type of stuff with their little presentations and videos, but since I know those characters so well, it's funny. While it's here, I don't know. I can't tell anybody apart from each other. It's funny when the bunk beds collapse, but
it was good.
That's a surface level laugh. I'm not really
Can we make our beds into bunk beds? We'll have so much room for activities, and there's some. I will say the movie is relentless in just throwing lines at you and trying to get shit to stick. Like, did we just become best friends? Do you want to go downstairs to my room and do karate? All this just constant.
It's like what I said about Get Him to the Greek, where joke. The joke is my butt, or whatever it was, and they kind of do that a little bit here with the joke is me just saying something I don't know the word to, or the obvious word punchline, and then move on. And it's just like, oh God, did you just improvise this shit and pick the funniest improvisations? But if that was actually written that way, then I have to appreciate it more. It seemed more like off the top of the head, So if I didn't have to watch this movie for the pod, I would have turned it off at Sweet Child of Mine. And I don't think I would have been any less for the wear.
Sweet Child of Mine, which part is that?
That's when they're singing in the car. Sweet Child of Mine.
Oh my God, that's right. Oh my God, I'd forgotten about that. That's I mean,
it's
look,
supposed to be painful.
When he
supposed
punches
to be
him
a
in the
dickhead.
face, when he's like, you want to punch me in the face right now, don't you? And he just rips off and punches him in the face. That's some good stuff.
Laughs, but boy, whew. And people told me this was one of the good ones that Will Ferrell made. I guess I'm just not attuned to this guy.
Give it another try, man. It might
another
catch you.
Try.
Again, it took me.
No fucking way. I can't sit through this again. I've given him too many tries. This was awful. This was awful to me. I know other people love it.
From the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's like jerking off in a time machine. Come on, man. That's funny.
Not enough to sit through a second time. I mean, I couldn't make it all the way through Talladega Nights. I thought Anchorman is mildly amusing. I like him in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I just don't think the material was here. I feel like there was a better movie that didn't get made, but it didn't need to. It made its money. So, but yeah, that's a 1 from me. A 1. Not a 1/2 like Zorro.
A 1.
Because it's still funny, but I don't like Will Ferrell. I really don't. It makes me weep for humanity.
I would rather watch this over Hell Night or Funhouse any day of the week.
I know.
And I do think it's saying everything else. Look, I'll say this too. Production wise, it looks good.
That's why I can't go lower than a 1. Yeah.
It's fine. It's all those things are there. There's nothing lacking in that department. You either like this kind of humor or you don't.
Or you don't.
I get it. But I think a 1 is a pretty harsh sentence for a movie that's
a harsh sentence.
Not doing too much. I'm going to say 2.5.
Yeah.
Maybe I might even at the end.
That's where it mostly lands.
3. Yeah. I do think it has some rewatchability. There's usually something stupid in this movie that makes me fucking laugh at some point. I don't think it's great. It does drag. It has its issues, even from a storytelling point and some other things. But it does some other, like, I love when they're selling the house and, like, there's all these, these comedy montages of, like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. And it's a dude in a Nazi uniform mowing his lawn. And then, it's the guy in the Klan across the street. Hey, it's really quiet around here. You're going to love it, There's some decent bits. But it's
funny in parts, but it was really hard for me to sit through.
I would rather watch this especially over, I think this is probably for me besides, I don't know, maybe Elf is probably at the same level, but
I walked out of Elf.
Probably for me with Will Ferrell, probably one of his more watchable movies is Elf.
Yeah, I
can't watch Talladega Nights, and I can't watch
Life is Too Short.
What was the other one that he did that was really god awful?
But once again, it doesn't need me. It has tons of followers. People love this movie. But its Rotten Tomatoes is around 50 or 60, so it is.
Joaquin Phoenix claims to have seen this film more times than he has ever seen any other movie.
Well, that's every movie has its audience. I don't think there are such things as bad films. I just think they're movies for certain people.
Let's see. The only other trivia I have for you is that Mary Steenburgen plays Will Ferrell's stepmother in Elf. So yeah.
So this was
Elf Part 2. I mean, for Will Ferrell movies, I think looking back on his category, Blades of Glory
probably
was
one of the better ones. Yeah,
it's probably one of the better ones.
Anchorman was funny.
Anchorman's probably one of his better ones. Is probably his best, but he's especially when he's
like most people look at The Love Guru.
When he's carrying the film, it's very hit or miss. When he shows up as an addition to the film, it's usually much better. Like he comes in, just burns the place down, then he leaves. That usually works a lot better than him coming in and trying to carry the film, in my opinion.
What's that movie he made that was kind of like serious that people like? Is it Running with Scissors?
There's a couple. There was Everything Must Go, but I think the one you might be thinking of is Stranger Than Fiction.
Yeah, that's the one people say is good as well.
It was good. I've never seen it. Have you seen?
No, I've not seen that one, so maybe that would be an interesting
Might be an interesting, yeah, and it's definitely a change of pace from him talent wise and what he's doing. He doesn't ham for the camera at all in that film.
Sleepwalk in that movie.
Yeah, so that's interesting. All right, wow. So a 1 from you. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, that's.
I think you're being harsh.
The world loved him, and I've just been like, "Oh God, please no!" for the last 20 years. So
I think you're just being harsh. I think you're just being a hater. But all right.
No, that's just my taste. If you inhabited my skin, you wouldn't say that. The way that thing made me feel.
What do you got next week?
Next week we'll talk to another guest, of course, because the new format. But the week after that, we'll be back to doing talking again. And I've had all these lists of movies forever and blah blah. I said season 3. We're going to throw the list out a little more. Let's throw the list out. Let's go some blind picks here. So, and this also kind of links back in from Always to the Funhouse to Cliff got the Spielberg first, but I might have been first with The Fabelmans. Will be our movie next week.
Fabelmans. Oh, this is a Spielberg movie I have not seen yet.
Yeah, it's pretty new.
Okay. Right on.
The Fabelmans.
The Fabelmans. And this is kind of
not
semi-autobiographic, right?
I think so, yeah.
Is the rumor. Okay, so bouncing back and forth here. We're all over the place, but I think I'm going to give you another quick, easy softball. Maybe something to bounce off the Fabelmans with. So I know you haven't seen this. I'm interested to see what you think. It's one of Jeff's favorite films, our buddy Jeff Notkin. So we're going to watch CBGB.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Yep.
Been meaning to.
Yep. We're going to get our dose of Alan Rickman in this season with a little CBGB.
So we're getting like some
next season will be Robin Hood, Prince of
next
Thieves
week
or something like that. Yeah.
Biopic.
Well, all right, folks. I guess Funhouse is questionable, and Marty says avoid Step Brothers like it's the plague.
That's, like Get Into the Greek, I'd say that's the only other movie that you don't need to watch that we've covered. If you have the same sensibilities as me.
Yeah, I think if you like raunchy comedies, you're going to love both those films you just mentioned. If you're not offended by that type of humor and you're not worried about who Russell Brand is as a person or Sean Diddy Combs or whatever, you'll think those movies are funny, like The Hangover or Animal House or anything else. But if if that type of humor doesn't really appeal to you, it's probably not going to appeal to you.
Well, sometimes it does. But in those movies, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. I like some raunchy humor, but those just something about that mid-aughts. The ship left, and I wasn't on the ship. So, and now we hardly even get comedies in theaters anymore that are original. Coincidence? Anyways, we'll see you in 2 weeks with the Fabelmans and CBGBs.
All right. Till then.
Until then.
Later.
You're not going to have a quote?
Oh, yeah, my quote. Oh, Jesus, that's right. I have one. Hang on. Okay, my quote is, I'll kiss you right on the mouth, Kenny Rogers.
$100 for Madame Xena? You never did understand the value of money.
Later. Don't miss an episode. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, like us on YouTube, or give us a 5-star rating on the podcast app of your choice.